Welcome to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where we discover the communities that are making a difference in the lives of others. Our self-discovery is something we are all making on our life's journey. Here you will find the people that will be your guidance, that will be your inspiration, that will be there for you in support on your journey of life. Do enjoy. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Their Story Matters right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest today is the wonderful Laura Suria. We're going to be talking about Isabelle. Isabelle's story of life after death, of suicide, of bullying, of what her life is doing now that she has passed over. She went through some incredible torment in her life, and it wasn't a question of just opting out. It was a feeling I can do more good from the other side. So we're going to be talking about bullying today, about why people choose suicide over everything else, and how now Isabelle's story is inspiring other kids, other people out there, that before they go and do that sometimes irreversible journey to the other side, of how they can heal themselves, how they can get through this. Laura herself, she has a master's degree in education, a bachelor's degree in early education. She's a teacher, mentor, and a coach. Later on in life, she decided to further her education to several different healing areas, which includes sound bowl therapy, Pranic Healing, and Practitioner in QHHT, past life regression. And she's here today to raise awareness about that life-changing event that took the life away from her healthy, fun-loving, amazing, individual, beautiful daughter, Isabelle. So welcome to the show, love.
Thank you very much.
To lose a child in any way at any age is horrific. It's the parent's worst nightmare. But when a child actually takes their own life, it's almost like a double whammy, isn't it?
Yes. It's very hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard for just immediate family, her friends, her teachers, everyone that has known her, our community has been devastated as well.
I don't think people think of it when they're in that horrible space of there's nowhere else to go, nobody cares, until they see the community come together afterwards, and it's like, I wish I knew, I wish I could have done something. But one of the horrible things about people who are in a depression or feeling that they're in despair, they'd feel so alone, and they don't realize that they're not alone. But they don't hear that or see that at that time, do they?
They don't. And then they sit in their bedrooms and they cry. They don't hear people. They don't feel anything anymore. They're surrounded by their own thoughts and negativity that they perceive, that everyone is against them, including social media and things that they read. And it's not always the case. They don't see the true side of others as well. So that's kind of where we come in with, cyberbullying and bullying and what we can do to make a difference in our communities.
I had somebody I was about to interview a couple of weeks ago, and I had an emergency call about counseling because her 15-year-old daughter attempted suicide. Thank God, she didn't end up going, well, it didn't take, but, and the mother always thought that she was positive, that she was okay. And again, we don't always know the face, do we? Now, in your case, Isabelle went through a great deal of trauma.
She did.
And so you knew the struggles and the difficulties she was going through. And I don't know, did you think, well, we've got a handle on this? Or, was it something that she just did out of the blue?
Well, at the beginning, we had a handle on it. And then by the end, we tried everything. And it got to the point where it was just so much pain for her that she just felt like it was her time, and that she did what she needed to do here on earth, and she was finished. She was done with the pain. She had physical pain, she had emotional pain, She had trauma, with all the trauma that she had gone through. I think that was one of the biggest things that kind of set her aside. I think that we could have made it through the rest of it if we didn't have so much trauma behind it.
And let's talk about some of those traumas, because they could push anyone over the limit.
Mm-hmm. Well, we had several. It started out in 2013 with a vaccination that made her very sick. 13 days later, it was actually the Gardasil shot. She ended up at the emergency room by ambulance, and with very labored breathing. And it was 5 years of continuous pain and struggle to figure out what it was. At the time, we did not pinpoint it until we look back upon all the series of events that had happened. She was a competition cheerleader. She was very active. She was high in grades. We traveled all over the United States for cheerleading. She played volleyball and basketball, and I was her coach for both of them in grade school. So we had a fantastic early life. She went to a school that was very small, a little Catholic school in our town, and all the kids were all together, and they played a big part in lives growing up. And as she got older, it got harder when you go to high school. You know, you have social media is an issue. We had, the Twitter, the Instagram, the Snapchat, things that I could not see.
Right.
And even text messages. The things that she showed me were not okay. And we did everything that we could. And when you're sick and you're laying in bed for so long, you lose your friends, or they continue to go on their lives while you lay in bed and try to figure out why your stomach hurts, or why your head hurts, or why you can't function like you used to. And we even went to the Mayo Clinic and tried to figure out what was going on. And then I think the icing on the cake was the problem was the friendships dissolved and wasn't there. And then she was sexually assaulted by 3 boys. And at the time, I don't think she realized how impacted it was, because she was drugged.
Yes.
She was drugged, and it took us months afterwards to figure out what was going on. Even after we went to the Mayo Clinic, 29 days after the sexual assault. And when we found out, we went to the police. We went to the school district. We went to the superintendent. We tried everything. We pulled her out of school so that she didn't have to see the kids part that was taking part into this. To this day, the case is still open. So moving on from that, it was very difficult, because then once everyone found out, that we were pursuing a case, then the cyberbullying started hard. It was very hard. People didn't support her like they should have.
Right.
People didn't come forward and speak to the police like they should have. So, there's a lot of, people take a lot of blame about things that they didn't do and they should have done. Well, that's something that you have to bear now for the rest of your life. Yes. But how can you make a difference? How can we make a difference? We forgive all those who are involved, because that's what we have to do to heal.
Yes.
And that's how we teach our teens is you have to forgive. You don't have to forget. No. But you have to forgive to move on. And that's one of the reasons why we can move on as a family, as a unit. And we had a long talk with our family. You have to forgive.
The problem is with cyberbullying, especially, is behind a screen, right? You're not facing somebody and telling them that. It's a hell of a lot more cowardly. And it also gathers momentum. And people will go and say and do things that they would never have the courage to do face to face. So it's a very, very cowardly way to do it, but you've got people egging each other on.
Yes.
And, it gathers a momentum, and the next person, it's a hysteria that happens. And what you don't realize, you lose sight. This is a life you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. And people don't realize one word can trigger somebody. What triggers that person? What is their weakness? We all have weaknesses, and when you attack somebody when they're down,
Yeah.
is really difficult for somebody to lift themselves up to find that light to move forward.
Bullying's been around since the beginning of time. I just had a conversation with my brother in the UK, and I was telling him about the show we're doing. And he was saying he was at an all boys school. I was at an all girls boarding school. But he remembers at the age of 10, boys trying to rape him or trying to kiss him. And it's like, it was a completely subject one never talked about to anyone. Anything like that, God, I'm not going to tell anybody. And now we're asking people to share. But at the same time, especially with rape, we've still got so far to go, because immediately is, well, what does she do to us for it? Not the accountability on the guys.
No.
Not the accountability at all. Not like, oh, they're just sowing their oaks. They're just, boys will be boys. Well, if boys will be boys and that's their behavior, we don't want them to grow up to be men. We want to change right now, because that behavior will carry on and they will think it's all right because they're a guy. And accountability is something we teach our children right from young. So why does it suddenly go sideways when we hit the teen years?
Well, something that was brought to my attention was in one of her health classes. She ended up being homebound, and one of the teachers were her cheerleading coach, because she was a varsity cheerleader at the freshman level at the high school. And she said in the class her husband teaches, which is health, the boys thought it was okay to rule the girls. And she's like, what? This
Pardon
is
me?
a big eye opener. Like,
yeah.
You wear this and you do this and you do this. And she was taken back, and she said, that's not how it's supposed to be. And it was their privilege to do what they did. And they had this is teenagers. So where does that start at? Does that start at home?
Yeah.
And thinking it was okay. What's a really sad thing is when we called these parents that were involved, and we talked to them, my child wouldn't do that. My child wouldn't do that. Would not acknowledge at all.
No.
And called her every name in the book. And
Yeah.
It was really difficult for us, because here she was super sick. She was sick. We let her go out on a New Year's party to hang out with her friends. And yes, they were probably drinking. She was drinking from somebody else's cup, and they were watching. And they ended up, she ended up where she shouldn't have been. And where was the rest of the people? She said there was
Right.
50 people at this
Yes.
party.
Yes.
Why didn't somebody stand up until it was too late? So
yeah, we can't turn a blind eye. Everybody out there, it's like, oh, thank God it wasn't me. Well, it could have been you. And, and next time it might be you, because nobody's bothered to stand up and say, this is wrong. You can't do this, because they're so scared of losing the popularity, of not fitting in, right? It's like, I'll be the snitch, and I don't want to be labeled that, because now the attention's going to be on me. And it's the entire societal of so afraid of people turning on them or not liking them or ousting them out or blaming them, that they're so scared to come forward and stand up for anybody. And it's like, if you don't stand up for someone, you are a part of the problem. You're just
and that's
as
what
guilty.
happened.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened. Nobody stood up for her, and they called her every name in the book, and they cyberbullied her. They texted her. We sent it to the principal. We sent it to the superintendent. And to his face, he said, you didn't do anything when I had an issue. You didn't stand up for me. So when she passed, the week after she passed, I went to the school board, and I said, this kid was a student here, and you didn't do anything to stand up for her rights.
Yeah.
And we were on Channel 4 News, the local news, and
Mm-hmm.
we did everything. And then there was a lot more people coming out. There's a lot more coming out, and I
Yes.
can share more and more. There's probably 10 to 12 girls that got sexually assaulted or raped by these three individuals. They call themselves a name, and there was something that came out, and they're still getting by with it, which
What's
is a
the law
shame.
doing about it?
Well, we went to the law and they didn't do anything. They said that it was her word against theirs.
And what about these other 12 girls? I mean, surely.
We're waiting to see if they come forward. They need to come forward. They have to go to the police. But the problem is the same thing. They will get bullied. They will get ousted. People won't, they don't believe in them. That's the problem.
Right. We're in this still very sexist, misogynistic world. And, it's so sad in 2021, we're still discussing this. But as you said, it starts in the home. And, behavior is learned by our children. And it's either something they watch on TV or something they see at home. The way the father treats a mother, the privilege, I'm male, so therefore I can do anything I want. Woman is subordinate. This is all taught. This is not something they're born with. And so somewhere along the line, we have to literally go back page by page to everything that's being taught and have a really good look at it and go, what is this really saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we need to do something, and that's what the foundation is for, is to make awareness, to draw awareness, and make a difference, and help people, because there's so many people are struggling right now, and they're struggling because of pain. They could be struggling because of
isolation right now.
Isolation, and we're seeing that right now overseas because a lot of them are committing suicide.
Yes.
And they're fearful. You're afraid of what's going to happen down the road. They're afraid of taking the vaccination. I'm hearing it every day. There's so much more than what we're seeing. Our eyes are not wide open. We need to open our eyes and be able to make sure that we can help people who are in pain, because pain is pain, no matter where it comes from. It doesn't matter if it's physical or emotional pain. I can't measure somebody's pain, but I can help them guide through the pain and help them learn through what's going on and how we can manage that pain to see the other side. With Isabelle, we actually did go to a pranic healer. She had 2 past life regressions. She got to see her future. She was able to, I think, see the other side. I'm really thinking that's what happened, and that's what I hear often.
Yeah, she knows that she could do more work from the other side than this side. Yeah.
And it's hard for people to understand that because of their religion or what they believe. It has nothing to do with the religion. It has spiritual, and she was very spiritual. She would meditate, and she was able to use her crystals, and we staged her room, and we did everything we could do to make sure that she was on that spiritual plane of where she needed comfort. We strive for that comfort.
Yeah. People don't realize is that we actually do a soul contract before we come here, and we come here for a reason. And, and Isabelle, when we first talked, very strong, because Willie Jones, who I interviewed, a musician, did a beautiful song, which we're going to close out the show with in tribute to Isabelle. And, when we were talking, I could feel Isabelle. And, she's saying, it's okay, I'm all right. I'm all right. I'm at peace. I've never been so much at peace. I've got work to do. And, she's got a purpose now, and she's working through you and working through the people that you gather through. And it's about helping stop that person commit suicide. That one moment beforehand, I was saying there's still hope. Why do people commit suicide? Because they feel hopeless. Hopeless, like there is no other answer. There's no other way out. No one cares. They feel trapped. As they say, they regret it afterwards sometimes. In her case, it was a choice. It was a choice because she knew she could do more from the other side. For others, it's like, I wish I hadn't done that. I had so much more to do. Why did I allow myself to do that? And being a spiritual person is what's allowed her to be as strong as she is now and have such a presence. And with you and all of you in your, let's talk about her brother, who's 16 and who obviously lost his sister. And, you know, obviously what happened to her, you know, that's a weight on his shoulders as well. But what he's doing about it right now, because he's decided to be proactive, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. She passed away when he was 13, so he was in eighth grade, so he was quite young. He was going about his own life, you know, worrying about playing soccer and playing sports at school. And then this all happened. You know, this all happened and this trauma happened. Now, as we've moved away from our hometown, we decided to just pick up and move.
Yeah.
And we did. And we picked up and moved to a different state, which is 17 hours away in Florida. And we decided that we're going to just see how it happens, what happens, and give him a new start, give him a new, you know, just take a breath, step back and enjoy his life and not worrying about what everybody else thinks about him. So we did do that and decided that we signed on our house Wednesday to sell our house in Illinois, where we were from. And that has given us a lot more clarity. He has got more clarity. He's actually able to step in and he does his own meditations. Yeah. He's able to communicate with her in his own way. And by doing this, he sees that she has set us on a path.
Yeah.
And that path couldn't start until after she set us on that path.
Yeah.
So we were going through our daily lives, doing what we needed to do. And then she jump started it, I would say.
Yeah.
And our path was, you know, to help the youth, to help individuals who feel the same way she does, because we all seen what she went through.
Right.
We all know that pain because we went through that pain. He's been through the pain of trauma, so now he is able to help other people who actually feel that hopelessness.
Yes.
That fear, that pain, because we've been there.
And in a lot of ways, even more relatable because of his age. Yeah. Right? You know, you're talking as a mother in your loss, and you can talk to another child, but having another child talk to their own age group and speak about the trauma, the pain, and everything that it does, it has probably in sometimes more relatability with his own peer group than, you know, sometimes us, because we're stepping up, we're saying this, and they just go, yeah, but you don't understand. You're not young. You're not at school. You're not in this environment. We've been there. We've gone through it. We know what it's like, but, you know, we're adults. And sometimes if to them, it's just like you're something from the Twilight Zone. But having somebody from the own age group stand up and say, this is the trauma, there is hope. You can get through this. You're not alone. I think has such a great impact. So the work that he's doing is most certainly probably going to change a lot of lives.
And he has, and many of the lives that he's changed are friends that he has had back in Illinois, and also here. We actually attend what's called the Center of Eternal Light. It's a place where you can buy a bunch of crystals, and it's a spiritual place. And when we walked in, there was a lady that her daughter had passed away, and she was beside herself. And I started speaking, and then Logan just stepped right in from where I finished and give his opinion on it. And she's like, I felt so much better after being able to talk to him, knowing that I can continue going on my life because I have a purpose, I have a meaning, I can see the path a little bit more because they can see Logan has a path.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
We're old because, you know, our path, we think our path is finished, but that's not true. You know, with his path, he's got such a long time to go forward. I think that he can bring that extra light to individuals who are seeing that, oh, it's just too late for me.
Right.
That's not the case.
Yes. I mean, look, suicide has no age bracket. I did a
Mm-mm.
veteran show last week with veteran wives, and, over 45,000 people, veterans, military, have committed suicide, more than that died in any war. And it is because they come back, they're different, they're suffering from post-traumatic stress, they don't know where they fit in, there isn't the support, and they feel no one understands them because they're not the same coming back. And
Mm-mm.
there is no age limit. I myself have thought about it in the past because I went through a rape myself, and I went through a few other things. I was a very sickly child and on my own a great deal. There was a lot of times I wanted just to check out, or, bus, please hit me. And I understand that despair. And when you're in that despair, there is no reasoning. There is no reason. You cannot see anything above you. There's just got to be an inner voice saying, hold on, you can get through this. And having people around you, not say snap out of it, worst thing you can say, but just, I'm there for you. Let me hold your hand, let me hug you. Let's watch something funny together. Do something. And sometimes it's just that little shift, isn't it? That little shift that can turn people back to seeing what's possible.
It is a little shift. Sometimes it's just a little text messages
Yes.
that I sent, and it could be, and most of the time it's in the middle of the night. I
Yes.
will tell you, her hardest time was in the middle of the night,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4 o'clock. She could get to sleep, but then in the middle of the night. So I kind of guide myself of how Isabelle acted and how she, when her hard times were, when it was difficult, what stressors were in her life at that specific time. Did they have a test? Did they have something important at school that day?
The
What's going
external
to go
stressors.
on that night? How
Yeah.
are we going to move forward that night? What can we move? So I send lots of meditations out by phone. I'll say, how are you doing? And they'll respond usually. And most of mine are teenagers. Well, most of them. I have some who are up in the 30s that I work with the QHHT and different modalities. And if I can't, I add other people. I have
Yeah.
a whole bunch of people that I can say, okay, I need this and I need this and I need this. So it's not, our foundation is from pain comes strength.
Yes.
And it's not just me, it's a collective of individuals like Willie J and singing the song, because we know vibration is very important to raise the vibration. And I think that's the main key, is these individuals have the lowest vibration. And how do you lift that vibration?
Right.
Just so I can get a glimpse of that other side.
Yes.
And once I get a little glimpse of the other side, then it might be a little, thought, that mindfulness, that thought forms we can change. And it might just be 1 or 2 words, where they're at, how we say something. And that's very important, being mindful of what you say, what you do, how you act, and positive.
Don't step in panicked. Oh my God, don't do any of that. It doesn't matter what's going on inside of you. You've got to present calm. And sometimes it might just be sitting there. All I'm going to do is sit with you. When you want to talk, when you want to say anything, when you want to hug, I'm here. I'm just going to sit with you. It's one of the hardest things, because you want to reach out, you want to hug, you want to stop them. But sometimes it's that. There was a patrol guy on the Golden Gate Bridge that the amount of lives that he had to talk down, from not jumping. And he said sometimes it was just a question of somebody listening. They're at the end of the tether, they don't know where else to go. If somebody's there just to listen, they can talk it out, and someone say, we can work through that. You're not alone. And look what Isabelle has done. She's still with you very much. You can feel her presence. She's here today. But had she not crossed over in this way, you wouldn't have set up the foundation. You wouldn't be saving other lives. You wouldn't be bringing attention to this, because let's face it, society doesn't want to know. Oh, no, that's, I don't want to hear about that. Depression and suicide. No, man, I don't want to hear about that. But if we don't talk about it, it's going to continue. And we have to talk about it. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Nobody wants to talk about it, but we have to prevent it.
Correct. And I think the other thing is we as a society, we need to change our thought forms and
Yes.
change our mindsets, that these are not people who are damaged at the very beginning. Isabel had a wonderful life. And it all stemmed to one tragic issue that had happened. This is one moment in time.
Yeah.
What happens if that moment in time didn't happen? We don't know,
Mm.
and there was nothing us as a family could have done besides me. I told the police the day that they came in, I would have had to strap her to my hip 24/7. And you can't live
No,
life like that.
no,
You know,
no.
she's seen sexual assault counselors. She had a sexual assault counselor. And it was so devastating to her. I just found out last year that she ended up having to quit her job because Isabel did everything right. She
Mm.
was asked to do everything right. So knowing that, makes me want to strive harder.
Yeah.
How can we help these people and individuals that don't have a voice? Yes, some of them will not be prosecuted.
No.
We know that, and most of them probably won't because of the shame, I think, of the individual. But yet we still have to go on with our lives. We have to still move forward and kind of step out of that box. It's just like you said, PTSD. Our veterans have PTSD.
Right.
She had PTSD from the sexual assault by the boys, and moving forward emotionally. And it's
Yes.
all of them emotional, damage that had happened.
Any
A
form
parent.
of trauma, any form of trauma, a post-traumatic stress is going to come about, a trigger is going to happen, and a reaction is going to be had. That is just the way it is. And,
Mhm.
everybody thinks it's just the soldiers, the warriors that have that. No,
Yeah.
anybody that's gone through any form of trauma. And, your son at 13 losing his sister, he has his own trauma, his own
Mhm.
post-traumatic stress, there'll be own triggers. It's what he's decided to do with it. Because, I know this triggers me, I know this causes me pain, but I have decided to be proactive and do something for someone else because that's the way I can cope with it. That's the way I can not get completely swallowed up by the post-traumatic stress disorder there. So it's very, very important that we recognize and never ever demean the fact that somebody is going through something. Shouldn't you have got
Mhm.
over that by now? Can't
Mhm.
you snap out of that? I mean, it happens with people who go through divorces. And right now, how many deaths have we had through this virus? And that means how many families have been left behind. And um, there is an entire aura of this trauma that is out there right now. The only way we're going to heal is together, right? Whether it's suicide, whether it's death by whatever causes, we've got to be there for each other. And as far as those young men are concerned, their day will come. Sometimes it's not for us to bring them to justice. The justice,
Mhm.
the justice will come in other ways. And if you held on to that, you'd be holding on to the pain instead of being able to put your energy forward into being a solution for others.
We wouldn't have been able to move forward if
No.
we continue to hold on.
Yeah.
And how I can't judge somebody when you don't know how they were raised,
Right.
So that's the other thing is we judge people too often.
Yes.
Stop. We need to stop and stop judging others, because we don't know what happened the day before. We don't know what triggers was said or what was done to them. And if we as a society stop judging individuals, then we can move on and help others. I think that's the biggest thing is when someone comes to me, I'm going to listen because I'm not going to judge how you feel or
No.
what's going on, because that actually lowers my vibration. It lowers me
Yes.
when I step into that path.
Yeah.
So when I step back and being able to listening ear and I listen to them, then that's when I can hear of what we need to do and how we can intervene and how we can help that individual. With our teenagers, the same thing. I'm seeing a lot of, at puberty is a big issue. I think my youngest that we have helped, was sixth grade. and it was a friend of mine, and she was devastated because he had a plan, and the plan was to do something after he was bullied at school. So we're seeing bullying at school that they just rather just go do their thing and not stand up for themselves at
Yes.
school. So that is one of the things that we do, is talk to school districts and schools and remind individuals, if you hear something, tell your counselors, tell your teachers, make sure that somebody knows, because that person could go home by themselves and do their deed and we'll never know why. They didn't know they was being bullied.
Right. And of course, then you've got the other extreme where those that have been bullied and persecuted somehow can buy a gun and go in and shoot everyone to ease their pain. So whether it is their own life taking or taking the life of others, it is that cry of help that they never got. And you know, when you ask people, but yeah, I didn't see any of that. I don't know where that all came from. Right. And it's because as a society, we don't pay attention. It used to be everybody in the village, you know, took a village to bring up a child because everybody watched out for each other's children. And now it's so insular, you know, and so controlled, and we're
We've
so
got our blinders on.
Yes, exactly. Oh no, and I don't want you playing with that child. You know, she's got emotional problems. Instead of let's envelop that child into our family and help with those emotional problems. You know, it's where is our compassion? Where is our kindness?
And I think that's what we need to teach. We have to reteach all of that kindness and individuality and making sure that people feel special in the way that is helpful and not harmful.
Yeah.
I think that's when I look back at some of the individuals that when I was at home in Illinois, we were talking about an individual that, you know, just feels lost and just has no reason to, and he didn't understand life, just feels lost and didn't feel like there was a purpose, you know, and for somebody to be able to step in, not the parents, that's the other thing. It's hard for the parents to step in to make decision and help them. They almost need to step out of that box and ask for help from other people, because we did everything we could. You know, I sent her everywhere. If somebody could have had, you know, that extra that I can give, that I was giving on the different side. And I think that's why people respond differently, is because it's not their mom, it's not their dad, it's not their brother, it's not their sister. They're the ones that love me and they have an invested interest, versus somebody that is kind of a stranger. You know, they don't have that interest, you know, as much as my parents do. So they listen a little bit more. They take note a little bit more. They understand.
Be more objective, right? Because your own family can't be objective. You go into that parental mode of, oh, no, what can, you know, I want to save you. Whereas somebody else can be objective into understanding. And in that objectivity, it can actually come back with a more rational discussion without, you know, and also a child doesn't want to let their parent down. Right. So coming to the parent and saying, I'm going through all of this, and immediately the parent is going into, I want to save you, you know, is not what they want. You know, I mean, yes, they would love the parents to save them, but they don't want to go to the parent with this because they also don't want to burden the parent. So that,
and they're embarrassed.
Yes.
I mean, and they're embarrassed because they don't know what to say, how to say it. It was, you know, very difficult. And I'm also finding out is that they don't understand the emotions that they're feeling. Right. So it's not an emotion that has a word. No. You know, there is no words to understand. This is hard.
Yes.
Well, how do you say that?
Right. There's no despair. It's somebody's coming and pulled your guts out, and everything is hopeless. So you can't see any way out. And it's like, I don't understand even what I'm doing here. Right. And
yeah. And so I think the other thing is just moving them out of that despair by mindfulness, by vibrations. How are we going to make a difference? Because they can't put a label on it.
No.
You can't put a label on some of the things that some of these kids have gone through.
Right.
And going through right now. I mean, I work in a Head Start. So our children have gone through very hard times right now, and being able just to be back in the classroom face to face has helped tremendously. And sometimes it's just a hug, and you give those
Yes.
kids that heart-to-heart hug, and knowing that we're there and being part of them and listening to them, and not interrupting their conversations. So
Also not trying to come up with, the solution. At this point, then it's not about that. It's just like, I'm in hell right now. And I need to be able to articulate that to someone in my gobbledygook manner, because there aren't any of those words for it. I need somebody there to listen and just simply take your hand and say, okay, I'm there for you. I'm there for you. We can get through this together. Right? You're not alone. They don't, yeah, okay, now you feel like that. Now you need to go and do this, and now you need to go and do that. They don't need that at that time. They just simply need to
no.
know someone cares.
And we need to tell, everyone to make sure that you reach out if you're
Yes.
feeling this way,
Yes. Yes.
because
There is no shame. There
no
is no
shame.
blame.
Reach out, call the hotline, call
Mhm.
a friend, call somebody that lifts you. Find your positive trigger. If
Yes.
it's dancing in the middle of the street, then dance.
Yep.
If it's swimming, go swim. Ride your bike. Find something that makes you happy. We all have those moments in time that we are all down. I'm going to
Yep.
tell you, yes, that has happened this week, to
Yep.
us as individuals. It's like, do we really want to do this? This has been a really hard week for us individually. And like, what are we going to do? I sat outside all day yesterday and just soaked up the sun. I said, I'm
Right.
not doing anything. I'm going to
Yeah.
be mindful of what's going on and just be in the moment and not have to worry about anything. But everyone has to take time out for themselves. And
Self-care.
mhm,
How can you be a rock for someone else, if you're crumbling? Right?
yeah,
The oxygenate yourself first, and it's okay for you to go and have a damn good cry. It's not like, well,
mhm,
shouldn't you be over it by now? No, you can have a cry
never.
over that loss anytime, anywhere. And you need those times where it's just like, I need to switch off from the world and go in. And, I'm sure there's been many, many a time where you just feel Isabelle just kind of coming in and sitting next to you, just
Mm-hmm.
being there. And it's just
Feel
that
her touching my
comforting. Yeah,
hair, touching the
exactly. Yeah.
top.
I've got you, mum. Here's my
Mhm,
hug. Here's my hug. Just simply do nothing. Just feel my presence. And
mhm.
because you're giving your presence to other people to let them know they're heard, they're seen, and there's a way out. But who gives that to you? Right?
I
And
have a team. I have a
right.
little team that I'm like, I'm pulling on them. I'm like, oh, this is how I feel today. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah. But
So
that's
that's,
important though, isn't it, to do this kind of work? Please don't go out and do it on your own, because it will consume you. I did for a long time in my counseling where, people that were in that despair, and it just got to a point, I just don't know what else to do for them. And I'm on my own and I'm taking it all on. And you start
mhm,
feeling that despair. You
you
start
do. You feel it
becoming that
here.
despair. So it is important to know when to say, I have to shut down, when to hand it off to someone else, or to say to other people, that rabbit hole has present itself. Help me not
Mhm.
go down it. And there is no sign of weakness in asking for help. That's
I
the
think it's
first
part of
sign of
being
strength
human.
and courage. Yes.
It's part of being
Yeah.
human. That is our emotions. We come here for the emotional experience. We want to feel that, but then we want to be able to turn it off when we can and not keep us in that negative, lower vibration all the time. So I think that's the difference. They don't, they are not trained. They
No,
don't understand that there's something on that other side that
no.
is more important than just those negative thoughts.
Yeah, death is final for the human body, but not the spirit.
Mhm.
Right? And when you open up to the fact that that spirit is still there, and that some spirits move on, that's their job, they move on. Other spirits say, no, I'm here, I'm around,
Yeah.
I've got more work to do. And it's very, very important that we acknowledge that and work with them. As you said, this has got nothing to do with religion. It doesn't anything to do whether you believe in God or not. It's a source of energy. That is, we're all particles, and when the physical particle goes, the ether and the spiritual particle is still there. And that presence, there are so many people that I've spoken to who have lost a loved one or lost a child, and you say that the presence of them there is so strong. And other people just say it's just your imagination or it's your grief. No, it isn't. It's your connection. And it's okay to have that connection with that person that you've lost. It's okay to have those conversations. It's okay to listen, because that's what they've decided to stay to do. They've decided to stay and be with you and help you move forward to do the work that perhaps they couldn't do while alive.
And that's kind of the fun part, is trying to figure out what their signs and symbols are. So that's what another thing that I teach the individuals of. You get signs and symbols every day.
Yes.
What is your connection to your loved ones on the other side? So that is part of a healing process of that grief. So that way you know that they're with you, and they're like, I don't get that. And I'm like, let's step back and see it. So then I present what Isabelle sends us. And then they start presenting and like, oh, you're right. This happens all the time. I just thought it's a coincidence.
Right.
No, it's not coincidence.
No such thing as coincidence. Everything has a purpose, right?
Yeah.
Everything.
So that's one of the things that we talk about, and that can lift somebody's spirits, knowing that they're with them and they're on their side. And that little touch on your head. I have different individuals that will call me, and it's quite unique, because I've met this individual through my sister, and I've never met her, and she's never met Isabelle, but Isabelle can come to her in her dreams. And I will tell you, she did save her life.
Yeah.
And she would be the first one that didn't realize that you have guides and you have angels and you have different spirit guides that can help you. She was closed-minded and didn't understand any of that. And it's nice now that when she'll call me, I'll say, okay, what's your spirit guide say? And she's like, why did you ask me? I forgot to ask them. So she'll stop and listen, but Isabelle will send her an eye charm. One night she was really down, and she got out of her car and looked down, and there was a charm bracelet that was a letter I. Now, come on. Where would you ever find the letter I, charm? And then hearts and rainbows and numbers and all of these rainbows is our biggest one. It's not one rainbow. It's usually a double rainbow. And hearts, that was the other thing, and I sent you a picture of a heart.
Yes.
And that was actually, and I haven't really shared this with anybody, but that was placed on our garage floor when her body was removed from the house. And our priest was there with her, and I made him stay there until she left. And it wasn't me that found it. It was somebody else that came out and said, look at this. It was a big water puddle the whole day. And then when she left, within that water puddle, it made a beautiful heart. And that heart, you can see Jesus, Mary, staff, and a cross.
Yeah.
And that was our sign. I'm okay.
Yes.
I'm okay, Mom. I'm okay.
I'm an empath, and I've spent a lot of my life helping people in the crossing over, but also in messages that need to be passed on. It's not for me to go and seek it. It's what spirit kind of seeks me. And there's been many a time, I've been at a funeral, and they've come to me, will you pass this message on? Will you pass that message on? And the message has always been this: I'm all right where I am. I'm safe. I'm happy. I am fine. I don't want you to lose your life with this. I'm with you. I'm this or that. And some people, it's very comforting for them. Unfortunately, there's one mum, Jehovah Witness, her son died at 13 years, and they didn't have a cause of why he died. He just simply died in his sleep. And she went to pieces. She ended up getting cancer, and she had 2 other children that she didn't seem to notice anymore, had a divorce. I mean, just completely went down that path. But I remember going to her and saying, look, Carl's got a message for you. He's by this riverbank, and, the water is running, and he's feeling free, and the wind is in his hair. And it's like, Mom, I'm all right, but I worry about you. I can't be happy if you're worried, if you are wrapped up in this. And unfortunately, because of her religion, she wouldn't accept it. And religion is meant to comfort you, guide you, support you, not block you. And if you could take that, you could still be religious, but please understand, before modernization of what religion is, religion was always that channel connection to the higher source, the higher gods. And we're now just given that ability to do it ourselves. When you open up your soul
Yeah.
First, you have to have an open heart. But when you allow that soul to speak through that heart and lift, and in that spirit interaction, your mind will know what it needs to know when it needs to know it. Step outside of the doctrine and allow yourself to be immersed in the presence that is around you.
And you, like you said, you have to have that open heart.
Yes.
If you keep it closed, then it's very hard to heal, and it's very hard to see all the signs and things that are around you, because grief, is a whole nother character, and it does. You do go through stages, and you can go back and forth, and you can have that anger, and you can have that resentment, and that mindfulness can draw you down. But when you recognize it, you can move forward. And we recognize that when somebody is down, or when they're having so much of that negativity, we need to be able to open our hearts.
Yes.
Or I need to be the person that can say, hey, look at this. Recognize this is really cool. You see this is going on. This is going on in your life. And then once they start being mindful of what is going on, then they can start peering out of that little trench that they dug themselves in. But Isabelle has been amazing. She's been able to give us lots of signs and symbols, from the day that she had passed all the way to the day of her funeral. She told me, she woke me up at 4:00. I don't even know how this happened. Woke me up, and we were able to ask, my husband was able to ask lots of questions. And she said, hey, by the way, tell the priest I'm going to be late for my funeral. We're like, what are you talking about? Sure enough, I open up the door, and Father John opens up, and he's like, well, I know you're not doing the greatest, but I'm going to ask you, how are you doing anyways? I said, well, we're hanging in there, but I have a message for you. And your message is, Isabelle's going to be late. And he's like, okay. Didn't know how to take that as a Catholic priest.
Right.
Ladies behind me heard him, and she goes, later on that week, she said, Father's never late at a funeral or a mass, not 1 minute late. We were late. Mm-hmm. We were 15 minutes late. We had 750 people that came to the church.
Wow.
And we don't know 750 people, but she had touched so many lives and so many different ages, I guess, and nationalities, that he actually presented that in his homily the next week and said, there was a young lady that we had over 750 people, that she has touched our community and made a difference. And I actually had another lady come to me that I owned a childcare center, a big childcare center in the next town over. And she came and spoke to me, and she goes, I have to speak to you in the church where you had the funeral. And her name was Laura. And Father came in, and he listened to the whole speech. And it was, tell the youth, work with the youth. Yes. Please work with the youth.
Yes.
Forgive me, and I'm okay.
Right.
So the three things that she said, and immediately, Father started something with the youth in our church to make a difference. And so that's kind of where this foundation has stemmed from, because she asked me.
Well, she's your background force, and may the force be with you. It's Isabelle. Isabelle's with you. She's bringing that energy to it, because that's the work that she's here to do. And it is the youth. I have a series called the Forgotten Children series, and it's about all the children. I mean, God, how many adults have I interviewed with the horrific things that they've gone through in life as a child? And here they are as an adult, they're willing to go through the process, and what they're doing now, is the healing work for others. But you hear some of those stories, and you think, how did you even resemble so much of normalcy or be able to carry on? And it's like we're always given what we need to carry to go through the process so we can be there for other people. But if we invest in our children now, if we listen to them now, right from the moment they're born, before they're born, you can talk to them in the belly, and just listen to them. You will understand there's an incredible amount of wisdom there. And our children, we don't own them. We're custodians of our children. We're there to guide and support them and nurture them and believe in them. And we need to invest in our children, because then we won't have such a dysfunctional society later. And we won't have, the suicidal rate, because a child will feel their voice is heard. They feel they can go to someone and say, this has happened to me, or I am being bullied, and not fear the persecution or the reputation that's going to come back to them. So that voice is essential that we give our children. Absolutely essential. And with the work that you're doing, is those children, and then, as I said, I was there as a teenager, I've been there as an adult, when you feel like there is no way out. Who cares? Who listens? People need to know there's somebody there. There's somebody there that does care, that will listen. And when somebody's talking to you that's going through this process, sometimes they're not making sense, because there is no sense. There is no sense in their thinking at that time. And it's not for you to judge how they're thinking. It's just for you to let them know you're there. Here's the hand. Come with me.
We'll figure it out together.
Yeah, exactly. And they want to know that there is that village out there of support. They want to know that people do care. I mean, the amount of people that have committed suicide, attempted it, and come out the other side and said, "Thank God I didn't, and now understand." That choice, that crossroad, what I really need to do now. And we have so much in us to give. But, one of the also sad, sorrowful things is, in the way you could have gone, you used the word forgive. You forgave the three guys for what they did to her, because the judgment has to come from somewhere else, not you. It would have turned into revenge. It would have turned into, wanting to act out on something in that revenge. And that's detrimental to absolutely everywhere. Nobody wins. Nobody wins through revenge or revengeful actions. So how to forgive, and as you said, you don't forget, but how to forgive and let that go, I think is probably one of the hardest things for someone to do. But it is one of the first and biggest steps of healing, isn't it?
It is. And then realizing that we have our own, our own soul path that we chose, and that's part of that path, but in not being stuck, because then I would be a statistic, because I wouldn't be able to move on. I couldn't help people. I wouldn't be able to, because I would be so distraught.
Yeah.
And you can take the easy path, or you can take the hard path, is what I tell my clients. What's the easy path? Follow your intuitions, follow your guides, follow it. Or you can take the hard path. Oh, I prefer to drink. I prefer to do drugs, because I don't want to feel these feelings. And most of the time they'll realize, well, I've done this path. This path doesn't work. So let me try this path. Right. How can you help me with this path? Because medication's not working. All these things are not working. That was traditional. And I think that's the difference is, we did the traditional path as well. We did it. And many of my clients have done the traditional path. And it's to the point where let's try something different. This is different.
Yeah. The traditional path really only takes care of the chin up. Right? It doesn't take care of the intellect of the heart, the soul, and the spirit. And in this equation, the heart, soul, and the spirit need to rule, because it will change the mind. Right? The heart, the soul, the spirit will change the mind. If you're trapped in your mind of, I should have, why didn't I? Or why is this happening to me? All of that, it just will eat you up alive. And you can't feel your heart. You can't feel your soul. You can't feel anyone around you. So it's silence the mind. Silence the verbality.
Away and start with this.
Yes, speak with the heart. Let the heart speak to you. The heart is so much stronger. And take that breath, breathing. So huge. Take that breath. Get into a breathing. As you said, you mentioned meditation. In all form of meditation, there is the form of breathing. Why is that breathing so important? It releases. It lines up your chakras. It allows that energy to come through you. It centers you. That's the reason why we say to people, take that breath. Because there's such a difference between clumping up together and getting caught into something and doing something you wish that you hadn't done, as to taking and letting it go and going, okay, I can see things more clearly. I can feel things more clearly. So it doesn't matter which form of meditation, is just finding, could be a walk in nature, could be putting on music, could be whatever it is that is soothing to your heart and soul will calm the mind.
And we don't talk about this.
Mm-mm.
We don't talk about this in school. We don't
No.
teach our kids. We don't teach our kids anywhere of how to heal yourself through aligning yourself with your
Yeah.
chakras. First time I've ever heard of chakras, when I started working in energy work. It's like, why didn't anybody tell me about
Yes.
this?
Yes.
You know?
Yes. I have another colleague friend who she has a whole yoga platform for children, for teens, and she has a whole meditation thing for them. Because if we teach them when they're young, very young, teach them when they're very young, it now becomes that wonderful skill that they can call on at any time something raises its ugly head.
Mm-hmm.
My mum used to say to me, I was bullied a lot, and she'd say, just listen to them, dear, with a blank look on your face.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're finished, turn around and say, I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. Were you talking to me? It doesn't matter what's going on inside of you, but what you
Mm-hmm.
don't do is feed the bully. And
That's
it's
right.
one of the hardest things to do is not respond to the bully.
Mm-hmm.
It really is, especially if they get
Yeah.
physical. But the more you don't respond, you're not feeding into their insecurity and their ego. Because I met a gentleman who became a bully
Yeah.
because he was being bullied. And it's like, we're going to continue to bully you and make your life a torment unless you join us and start bullying others. And
Mm-hmm.
he was in his 40s, and he said, I still have the guilt today of bullying others and putting them through what I went through.
And so he's changed his life.
Yes. Yes.
He's able to look at
Yes.
it through a different lens
Yes.
and see it through a different eyes now, so that he had to feel both sides.
Yeah.
He had to do
Yeah.
both sides to be able to feel that. So
Yes.
he would be a great person to help other people.
Yes.
I think
Exactly.
that's the other thing is we all can help somebody. It's
Yes.
not just me, or it's not just Logan. It's not just my husband. We all are helping each other get through this life, our path, and get as many experiences as we can throughout this time as we go through. And I think that's one of the important things is how can we make it manageable?
Right.
How can we make it comfortable?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're going to go through it.
Yeah. That's the journey of life. Going through it, realizing your strength, your courage, your resilience, your abilities, coming out the other end and go, God, I was selling myself short. Look at who I am today and what I'm doing. And I almost gave up.
And have some joy about it.
Yes. Yes.
Have that joy at the end of the day saying, I did what I needed to do. I have the joy. Not going to bed sleeping like it's another day. I need to have that joy. And how do I bring that spark of joy to individuals?
Yes. Self-gratification, and I don't mean it in that way. I mean it
No.
when you're living in gratitude, right?
Mm-hmm.
You bring that attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I just, another thing that Isabel wants me to say is that you are working on the human front with your organization. But while those others are sleeping, waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, she and her team, because she's gathered
Mm-hmm.
a team on the other side, are working on them. So
Yes.
it's double-sided of the equation here.
And time I hear that, from many of my friends that are here in Florida, it's very spiritual where we're at, and we align ourselves with many people that can hear from the other side, which it's very hard for individuals that have never been part of that.
Yes.
They're like, there's no other side, and like, well, there is, and
Mm-hmm.
if you listen closely enough, you can hear it. But if once you get over that hump and
Yeah.
understanding it, then there's a whole new world that's opened up to you, and then you can embrace that world as well. And I think some of the things that a lot of my clients have, this closed mindedness, they don't see that, and when you open that, it makes it a little easier to cope with life.
Yep. I mean, for me, it's get out of the head. Feel it. I'm a kinesthetic person anyway, but it's about feeling it. Feel the knowledge, because when you
Mhm.
feel it, you understand it better. All our emotions are there for a reason. They're an indication. I'm
Yeah.
angry, I'm glad, I'm happy, I'm this. It's an indication of what's going on around you. But don't become emotional about those
Mhm.
emotions. They're there as an indication of where you're at the moment. Don't get stuck there. Because if you become emotional about it, it starts building and building and building and building, and then it loses all sense of reason. And you're caught up in an hysteria where you feel there is no way out, nobody cares, and off you go. And then how many people attempt the suicide? They don't want to really leave. It's just a question of call for help or to shut everything down. Right.
Yeah, and that's the time to call for help
Yes.
and or recognize that person that needs help.
Yeah.
That's kind of our job, is to listen to those signs and
Now,
teach others.
approaching somebody that you know that is in emotional distress and they're looking at the suicide way, or even could even have some thoughts of it. Again, we cannot come with a no, you've got to snap out of it. You've got to do this. You've got
Mm-mm.
to do that. Any of you got to's aren't going to work. What would you suggest for someone who's recognizing that in somebody else of what they should do?
Well, if it's immediate and you can call the hotline
Right.
and get information, that would be the first thing. And sometimes hospitalization is needed to get the immediate,
Mhm.
gratification. But when somebody is just kind of pondering that information, and just like, it just, I'm done. I'm really done. Try to figure out what is going on, or try to move them forward past that moment. Let's move forward. That thing is done.
Yeah.
Whatever is haunting you, it's finished, it's over. You don't have to go back to that. Let's move forward and see. Oh, look at that.
Yep. I don't know what that picture is.
Uh,
For
let's
people who
move
aren't what,
forward.
yeah, exactly. If you're people who are listening to this, suddenly a palm tree in the beach has come up into my background and the wind is blowing. So that's the saying, move forward. Okay, we got the message, Isabel.
Move forward, and just don't stay there.
No,
And that's what we do. Listen to that individual.
life is about fluidity of moving forward. When we get stagnant, that's when things ferment. And, and all sorts of stuff starts growing there that is not, not healthy for us.
Mhm.
We are, why is the wind? Why do the rivers flow? Why does the earth speak? Why do the trees move? Because they're constantly in movement. And we are 70% water and oxygen and the wind. We need to constantly be in fluidity. And, that doesn't mean, constantly changing a thought, but it means always being on a trajectory that is moving progressively forward. And it's okay to pause and to be still and to take everything around you, because that
Mhm.
fortifies us as your fuel to move forward again. But if you are in tune, if you open up to the beautiful messages that are out there, you don't have to go calling on them. You just have to be open. Everything is a channel. As I said, the people that come to me, I'm on the same frequency. So that's the
Mhm.
reason why they come to me. The people that will come to you are on your wavelength, on your frequency, and they will come with a message. Sometimes the message doesn't make any sense to you, but if you just let it sit there in your psyche, it will reveal its meaning to you as you move forward. You will suddenly realize what that was, how to use it. But if you're not open to that wonderful divine message, and that partnership, that partnership as a human being with the spiritual being, which makes us a whole and makes us truly understand why we're here and the work that we're here to do, you are going to be forever chasing an illusion just
Mhm.
from the human self. And that's a lot of what lets people down. Why do our youngsters do this? And not just the cyberbullying, but it's also this constant pressure and expectation of that you've got to be this to be popular. You've got to be thin to be that. You've got to be excel at that. You've got to be great at sports. Nobody's going to like you if you're different, or if you're a
Mhm.
nerd, or if you're that, because somewhere along the line, that's been society's dictation. Now, if we take that dictation out and say, be your glorious, wonderful, in your flawsomeness, in your quirkiness, be
Mhm.
yourself, because you are the unique being that we need. in this dish of life, then we're saying to people, it's okay to be different. Who wants to be the same anyway?
We all need to be different. We all need to show our true light. I think
Yeah.
that's the other thing is if we do that, then if we're all the same, how boring that would be.
Oh, I mean, God,
I
total
mean,
dullness. And we all have a different experience when we open up those channels. For some people, it is a revelation of what they're meant to do. Some people suddenly discover a skill. Some people, it's an understanding of all the struggles they went through and what they need to do with it. And it is no one size fits all, or I want what she had. No, it's your own unique experience. It's what you do with it and the impact that you have on others with it. As I said, Isabelle chose to cross over. It wasn't a way out for her. It was repositioning herself in a place that she felt she could do more work. And as I said, she's got a gathering of her own team over there that's working on those in those dark times at night, because night is a time of that cosmic stillness that can really penetrate. She's doing her job here, and she will bring you the people that need the help on the human realm. So you've got a good partnership going on with her.
We do have a good partnership. And many of the other ones that she's worked with is a partnership, and they'll be part of the healing center when we open. That's our goal, is to open up 7 healing centers throughout the United States, where individuals can come to learn themselves again. So where they can stay and learn to meditate, to breathe, to learn their passion, what they're passionate about, and not worry about who's texting me, who's talking bad about me, who's on that social media. To stop all that, stop that negative connection, stop that energy vampires that are, sucking your energy, and trying to regroup and reground and learning what they're capable of doing versus not understanding that it's not working the traditional way.
Right. It's not just suicide that we lose people to. We lose them to addiction. And there was one mom interviewed who she realized she couldn't save her daughter. Her daughter would, go into rehab, come out, be all right for a few days, right back again. She got shot. And mum brought her home and thought, this was the catalyst. This is going to stop. She's going to take a different path, right back to the addiction, until eventually she was murdered. And it was like, no matter what I did, no matter what I said, no matter what help I got, I couldn't help her. And there are sometimes those people that just, you can't. So what she had to do, the mum had to help herself for the sake of the family. Because you've got to remember what else goes on in the family. In your case, your husband is very much with you with the spiritual side of things. Some other may not be, like the mum feels it, the dad doesn't, or the vice versa. The kids don't, the kids have that repercussion, but your son, all right, he's gone through his trauma. The triggers are still there, but he's decided to be proactive on this and be a solution. So it is a choice, isn't it? It is a choice of what we do with it, whether whoever we've lost, of what we can do to not only honor their name and their memory and their energy, but also to prevent other people from going through the same process.
Yeah, and understanding their healing process too. That's the healing is very important. And if you don't heal, that is going to be more trauma down the road. So you have to face it now, then wait 20 years.
I guarantee you wait 20 years, it's triple the energy to get rid of it, right? Please, kids, nip it in the bud.
Do it now.
Do it now. You're going to have to do the work on it. I promise you have to. Everybody has to go through that process, has to go through it. Go through it when you're younger. You'll get through it a lot quicker. You'll find your meaningful purpose a lot faster. You'll be more exuberant in what you do in life. Don't let it pile up decade after decade, because it's so much harder to undo then.
And this is so true, because when Logan goes to class with me, he'll look around and he's like, I'm the youngest one here. And I'm like, because I'm pretty lucky to
Yes.
understand what's going on. He goes,
Yes.
and they're all like, we cannot believe that you're so young, Logan, and you understand
Yeah.
so much. And it's actually a sense of pride that he understands what's going on. And he's like, how old are you? How long did it take you to understand all
Yeah.
this? A long time.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's not a question of the age. As I said, we have so many indigo children right now.
Yes.
They are not born of the human world. They're born of the spiritual world that they're bringing to humanity. And we're also in those energetics that are changing, the volume's going up every single day to a
Yes.
higher level, higher hertz of love. And we're going to see so much more of these children with their beautiful soul minds, change the way society is. And we have to be there to help them.
Yes. And I think that's what we're seeing. Some of these children who are struggling right now,
Yes.
just in general, I mean, just, with little things that might bother them. They didn't expect some of these things that happened to them.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be so traumatic that it's what I'm trying to say. It doesn't have to be a traumatic thing that happened to you or your family, that you still have pain.
Yes.
And that pain is to be able to move forward and how you're going to move forward. I'm finding a lot with puberty.
Yes.
Might be the trigger of some of this.
Well, let's face it. We talk about the terrible twos, but
Oh, yeah.
when kids get into the teens, I was saying sometimes it's like the exorcist, the head goes spinning around,
Yeah.
and it's like, who are you? And there's so
Completely.
much going on physically, hormonally, emotionally, and spiritually going on in them that it's too much of an overload. And then you've got the exterior pressures of you can only be popular or liked if you're this. And they're in their own self-discovery of who they are as that teen, of where they want to go. And then you've got those expectations that are all around them. And, sometimes you get it from the pressures for the parents. You must get good grades. You will go to university. You will do this. You will do that. I don't do any of that. I just want to be an artist. No, you can't be an artist. That's a loser. And you've got that battle going on top of everything else. So it is a terrible time. And you can understand why there's so much suicide within teens because of that struggle. It's not a nice time to go through.
No, it's not. But
And
if
it
we can
should
be
be
there for
fun.
them,
Yeah.
and it should be fun.
Yeah.
Teenager years are supposed to be fun.
Yes.
And that's what I tell them. This is a time that you're supposed to explore.
Yes.
You're supposed to make mistakes.
Yes.
You're supposed to do all of these things. You have to learn them on your own. Me telling you how it works is not it. You're not going to.
Or
You
place
have to make it.
expectation on them. The only expectation is that you be as true to yourself, honest to your core, heart, soul, and mind and spirit. That you in your self-discovery and your journey of who and what you are and here to do, that you always look for that authenticity and not those voices from the outside.
Right. And then as you talk to the individuals, we talk about diet and things that we eat, and we talk about what makes you happy and how are these things going to affect you and your family. So, and sometimes, the family is a big part of why they're feeling the way they are.
Yeah.
And you can't change some of those, but you can change your outlook and how you feel as you move forward. So you're going to have some struggles and some barriers down the way, but it's not always going to be there because you can move forward. You're going to grow older. You're going to move, and you can move out of that house at a certain time. And that's the other thing. There's always an option. You always have that option. So,
and the thing is, if you are going through that and you can't leave the home, or you're in a foster home again, from one to the other, the thing is, if you in your own self-discovery find your own inner core strength and you have resources, resilience, and abilities, you will learn to cope with that so much more. You will learn not to let whatever's going on affect you so much more. And that when it is time for you to be able to walk away from there, you're not going to be walking away broken, discombobulated, and with nowhere knowing where to go, just with the trauma. You're going to be going forward as an individual who is strong and resilient and ready for their next chapter in life.
Yeah. And that's our goal. That is our goal, for them to be strong and be able to be the individual. And show and see that happiness.
Yeah. Important to have, important to be. As I said, you wouldn't be on this path if it wasn't for Isabelle. So, you know, it was all part of the cosmic plan. And sometimes it's like, well, why did you have to do it to such an extreme? But then
Yeah.
we can't argue, you know, with
Mm-hmm.
that plan. And as I said, Isabel's fine. She's absolutely fine. And I said, she's got her own team there. She's doing her own work. She is not carrying any of the pain. And she's with you all the time,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because the work that you're doing is the other side of the coin. And, you know, by that beautiful work that you're doing together, it's going to save a lot of lives, but not just save them in the moment, but
Mm-hmm.
empower them to be more self-empowered in their own life and not let all this exterior control them or bring them down.
We've learned a lot in the last 2 years when she had passed. So I think that is the empowerment. We had to empower ourselves
Yeah.
first. And then when we learned how to do that, then we can help the others along the way. But
Yeah.
you have to move forward. And how can you move forward in your own light and your own abilities? Because we all have something. We all have a
Yeah.
gift.
Yeah. And, you know, you all have bad days. And it's okay for you to take that day and have that cry and nurture yourself, but go and do something that you know that is that warm blanket around you, that's something that is there, that is loving for you, and that is going to soothe your heart and soul, because it will calm your spirit, it will calm your mind, and then you know, you can get back up and go about whatever you need to be doing. But that self-care is so important because it's your own rejuvenation, but it's also your own release. Otherwise, you know, the pain of what you're seeing, the suffering of what others are doing, you can take on. It can ignite that memory of pain
Mm-hmm.
within yourself, and it can consume you. So the caregivers must pay attention to taking care of themselves and to say,
Mm-hmm.
bad day, have to be absent. I need some love and caring right now myself.
Correct.
Just because you're doing this work doesn't mean, you know, you're made of iron.
No.
Right?
We are not.
No.
We are human too. So we have
Yes.
to work. We have to work together, and we have our own team as well.
Hmm.
So we all. That's how I think that's how the world works. You know,
Yeah.
we have to count on the village. We are
Yes.
part of that village, and we play an active part of that village. You can't raise a child without going to school and doing
Yeah.
certain things. You have that village around you. You want to
And
come over here, Logan?
and looking at that village. Oh, who's there?
Logan.
Hi, Logan. Hi, Logan. We've been talking about you.
I heard.
Yeah, you
How
heard.
are
Good.
you?
I'm doing great, and I'm hoping that you will come on and share with us from your perspective. Because as I was saying to your mum, you know, we as mums are always going to come at it from the motherly type of thing. But for you yourself, as a youth, you're speaking to the youth that can relate to you. You can speak in an understanding that a way that reaches them sometimes so much more than it does as adults, because we are kind of considered separate from any emotions in a kid's eyes. So I do hope you come and share with us your story one day.
Yes. Thank you.
And, you know, congratulations and kudos to you for choosing, you know, to find the strength and the courage and to continue this work on. And, you know, and your sister has got her two big arms wrapped around you right now and saying that she's with you as well. So I look forward to bringing you on as well and hearing that story, you know, from your perspective, because you must see this all the time. You're in the midst of it, school, everything. And it can be despairing, can't it, to see somebody else going through all of that, knowing what could happen unless somebody intervenes, unless somebody steps up and says, I'm here for you.
Yes.
So we will talk to mum about booking you in and having you come and share your story as well, which is
All
very
right. I'm
much
looking
needed.
forward to it.
Definitely. We have an incredible amount of youth out there right now. You're awesome. You kids are absolutely awesome. You've got so much common sense about you. And I think it's just that liberty of letting you know that the future needs you, right? I mean,
Yes.
always
Correct.
strong
Yes.
mind, heart, body, and soul. And so, yeah. So we would talk about that on our show.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna give her back the headphones so
Okay.
I won't be able to hear.
Okay. Great.
Hello.
Yeah, definitely having him share his story, as I said, is that we often don't understand what our kids are going through. We give you everything you want. You know, you have all these skills and abilities. I don't understand the way you're feeling. And no, we don't, because we're seeing it from a parent's point of view or teacher or whatever's point of view. When a kid can speak to another kid and understand what they're going through, then there is that sense of not being alone and that sense that somebody hears me, somebody understands what I'm going through. So the more that Logan can empower other kids to join in on this work, the more impactful it's going to be. So I look forward to interviewing him.
Very nice. Nice.
You're doing wonderful work, all of you. And, you know, I always celebrate the mums that can, after a child has gone, choose in some way to honor their child by doing something that was meaningful to the child and meaningful to you. And it takes courage to do that. And I know you have your good days and your bad days, but the fact that you've decided to go out there and shed light on it, but not only that, that slight pivoting of someone's thought is literally could be life and death. Letting them know they're not alone could be life and death.
And you know, we didn't name it Isabel's Foundation. We named
Right.
it From Pain Comes Strength,
Right.
so that everyone is part of it.
Yes.
Everyone's pain is going to be their strength at the end.
And people don't realize it when they're in the pain. But when they've gone through the pain, they can recognize it and go, look how much stronger I am because of it. And that's, you know, why is it that way? Why was it designed that way? Who knows? But that is the way it is. We gain so much through the pain and the anguish we go through. We learn so much about ourselves and our abilities and what we're really here to do. Our meaningful purpose comes out on it. Don't get stuck in the pain.
And that's one of the reasons why Willie wrote the song.
Yes.
Willie J wrote his song, Isabelle, and it talks about the struggles that she has gone through her life. And Isabelle pretty well wrote the song.
Yeah.
We sat down and we wrote it together, but there were some words that she did not want, and there were some words that she wanted. And one of them was her external beauty. She did not want to talk about that. She did not want to talk about her long hair and how pretty she was. She wanted to talk about her internal beauty.
Yes.
And the beauty that she has gained and how she respects others. Many of the things that I had heard through after her passing is Isabelle would give the shirt off their back. If she didn't understand something, she would make sure that they understood it, or she would help them. And how many times that she's gone out of her way to help somebody else.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know it. There's so many things that she has done in the long run to build her own soul. And I think that was a part of healing. You know, she was able to help others, and she knew that she did it without even any consequences. Sometimes she would get in trouble and it wouldn't be her consequences, but she would never say that.
No. And, you know, there's something I gotta really reiterate here. Her suicide wasn't a cop-out.
No.
It was a redirection for her. She knew she could do more work on the other side. And she doesn't condone suicide. She understands it. And her own suicide wasn't because she couldn't cope anymore. She just knew she'd be able to do more work being on the other side.
I think it was an awakening for individuals to say, look how pretty she was. Look how everything was so perfect. Everyone thought everything was so perfect. How can this happen to her?
Yeah.
How, you know, and that's what a lot of people said. And we, you know, made sure that, you know, this is the platform.
Yeah. Yes.
How can she be bullied?
Yes.
You know, you look at her pictures. How can she be bullied?
Yes.
She was a model. She was on a billboard as a model at the Float Tank Center in our hometown, right on the highway. People were jealous, and she was the platform to make sure that she can change. She changed lives.
Yes. and look at the path that you're on now. Look at the work that you're doing now. Look, it's not just a question of saving the lives. It's all very well saving a life. It's enlightening a life. It's empowering a life. It's who they become because you saved them, because you redirected them.
Yeah. Letting them shine.
Letting them
What
shine.
are you going to do for your light to shine? When you walk in that room,
Yeah.
people are going to turn their heads and say, oh, who's that?
Yeah.
You're going to shine.
Yeah. Switch on that light bulb of theirs, right? You know, it's that we've all got it. We're all here for a reason. We've all got a gift for all a meaningful purpose, and it's stepping into it. And, you know, nobody just goes, I'm going to grow up and commit suicide one day, or grow up and be a drug addict, or grow up and be this and that. It's circumstances lead them to that. And a great deal of the time, it is because they don't feel heard. They don't even know how to articulate how they're feeling. They just feel so trapped and they feel there's no way out. Let's show them the path out. And it comes with love, and it comes with understanding. It comes with compassion, and it comes with listening. Care. Please start caring for other people. When you see something in someone else, no matter what their age, you see somebody struggling. Sometimes it's simply a hug, a cup of tea, listening to them, letting them know that they're a text message that you said, something that lets them know, I see you, I'm here for you. It literally can be the difference between that choice of exiting or staying.
And it's never too late.
Never. No, never. How did you meet Willie J?
I actually met him through another friend. It's kind of a long story. Dante was living with us from Puerto Rico. When the hurricanes came through, we were text messaging back and forth, and he was no longer be able to attend high school, and he was a senior, so he needed to finish his high school year. So I offered him to come live with us. Didn't know who he was. He was the same age as Isabelle, never really met them. So they decided to let him come and stay with us for the rest of the year. At that time, Aaron Emick is a friend of mine through church. He was the athletic director, and I think I coached boys basketball at the time. And Aaron heard about Dante and was taken back, and he offered to pay for him to go to a Catholic school. So he paid for his way to go to school. And then Aaron and Willie were friends. And when they found out about it, they decided to write a song called We Love You, Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm.
So that song is written for the family in Puerto Rico who lives in downtown San Juan. They still live there. They were out of power for 100 days.
Yeah, ridiculous.
And it's been very hard for them. So during the time that Dante stayed with us, Isabelle had passed. And this was one of the very first deaths that their family has had. And at that time, you know, we were all very in emotional distress, and I have a child that is, you know, family that is with us, and it came to the time where we just sat down and just had a conversation. What should we do? What is the next step? What are we going to do to make a difference? And we decided that possibly another song would help. And that's kind of how it ended up. We did lots of meetings at restaurants, and our one restaurant that we sat down with, and it just came up with the words. I was at an afterlife conference in Scottsdale, Arizona. Isabelle was part of the 30 with Sonia from Brazil, and she was able to channel her with her equipment. And I was one of the speakers out there for QHHT. And during that,
what QHHT is?
It's past life regression. I use the Dolores Cannon method, and it is going back to the past. That is something that might be triggering your pain in this current life. Yeah. So what we did was I was talking about that, and throughout that time, we were talking back and forth about what high vibration words. And it just kind of all fell in place from after that. And he wrote the song. probably 1 week after we had met, and sent it to me. And then I ended up having a music festival for Isabelle in our hometown a year later in May. It rained and we didn't have as many people come out, but they were one of the speakers and songwriters and played their music for us. And it made us all feel so much happier when music, because Isabelle loved music. She would blare it in the Jeep, and she would blare it with her friends, and she would sing, and they would just sing and sing and sing. So it was a perfect combination with Willie. And I gave Willie a picture of Isabelle, and he keeps it in his wallet, and he pulls it out whenever he feels like he needs to speak to her. So it's been a friendship, a growing friendship now, to the point where now the song is finished, and now we're getting ready to release the song. And it's very emotional song. It's high vibration words. It makes you think. It's very catchy. He uses her name in the title and within the song. So I feel that we will get a lot of feedback from this.
Yeah. Well, it's actually the fact, when I was interviewing Willie, I was just listening to some of his music, and I came across the Isabelle song, and you know, actually asked him about it on the show, and because he said it's not been released yet, and that's how, you know, it came. You've got to meet Laura, and that's how that came about. But you know, he's very much governed by not only his mission, his purpose, but by the spirit. If you know, music can be just sound. But when music is governed by spirit, then it is a totally different vibration. And it's a huge healing modality for me whenever I'm feeling down. And, you know, having her voice, so to speak, come through the music is, again, another very healing platform. So it's just another way of, and the thing is, she doesn't want her story out there for people to be sad. Right? It's not like, oh, feel sorry for me or anything else. You know, I made the choice for this reason. I want you to care about those others that are struggling.
And you can get through it.
Yes. Yes, you can get through it. But you need to step into heart, soul, and spirit to do it, and step out of the head, because the head can be the enemy.
Yes, it can be. And that was one of the things that we worked really hard on with her as well, and trying to make sure that she understands it's just not all that you know. You think that you know everything, but you really don't. And we're still learning on a daily basis, you know.
Doesn't matter how old we are, right? Every day there is a life lesson to be had. And that's what makes it exciting. You know, I wish that people who are at the end of their tether would kind of realize there's so much more exploration out there. There's so much more wonderment out there. There's so much more beauty out there than there is ugly. And you know, what we water will grow. And if we decide to water the love, water the possibilities, then we're actually going to see those beautiful opportunities of reason to stay. I know the darkness that can just completely swallow you up, but just make sure you always turn your focus to that speck of light, because it's ready to open up when you are.
And find somebody that can open that speck of light.
Yes.
I mean, there's somebody in your life,
yes,
or our foundation, or you, or anyone that is going to stop and listen. You know, we don't want you to be struggling all your life and not have your voice. You have a voice. Use your voice, use your spirit, use your abilities, and find out what it is.
You have no idea of just showing somebody some kindness, just listening to them at the bus stop, at the coffee shop, somewhere, the grocery store, you know, how it can change their lives. I've you know, heard somebody who shared this story that the woman at the grocery store was having a really bad day, and she decided when she got her groceries just to pull her aside a moment and say, "What can I do for you, love?" And she said that the woman was going home to commit suicide. Right? She was leaving food in the cupboard for the family. She was going home to commit suicide. And because someone stopped and talked to her, she didn't. Now that's you know, it's just such
profound.
Huge impact of just caring. Stop walking around with the blinkers on. Take them off. Let your soul and your heart show you the people that are needing that love. and simply care. We've lost that caring ability for each other. It's all about what you should be and your popularity and how many people following you. Who gives a damn? It's about the one, the two, or the three people in your life that you care for. And it's about you. Care for you. Care for you. It's okay for you to have self-love. When you do, you step into joy. You step into purpose. You step into the light of life, and then you become that glow for others, that beacon of hope for others.
And sometimes when you are so down and you can't see the other side, you almost have to surrender.
Yes.
Surrender so that you can break through.
Yep. Don't try and push. Don't try and dictate. Allow. Right? It's like
you just
forgiveness.
got to allow it.
Yes.
You just got to allow it to open up.
Yes. It's the same with forgiveness. Allow it. Don't dictate it. Don't give it conditions. I will if. None of that. Just release and allow. Surrender.
And for your listener, is surrender is probably the hardest thing to do.
Yes.
And we don't teach that either.
No, we don't.
What does that mean? What does surrender mean? When you're down and out, that is going to be, you just say, okay, I'm just surrendering to the light. I'm surrendering to whatever needs to be surrendered to.
Yep.
And just feel that vibration, feel that energy. And sometimes you will actually feel it in your heart.
Yep.
And you might get a heartache. You might feel like you're having a heart attack, but it's opening up your heart with lots of love.
Mm-hmm.
I challenge you tonight to lay in your bed and just close your eyes and breathe and take that deep breath and feel your heartbeat and feel the love within your heart, and just release all the negativity. Just release it, and you have no space for it.
No. If you have love in your heart, soul, and spirit, there is no room for hate, anger, loathing. There isn't. It doesn't mean that there's still not, holding people accountable or being responsible. It just means that you are going to feed the waters of love, because that's where creativity, that's where possibilities, that's where opportunities come from. And we've just got to let people know, it doesn't matter what age you are, if you're at the end of your tether and you think there is nothing to go on for, there is. There is so much to go on for. Please don't give up now. Ask for help. Reach out to someone. Reach out to you at your foundation and realize that people do care. And you are so much stronger than this. Do not take the exit. Right? You're at a cul-de-sac. Look at it that way. It's not the end. It's a cul-de-sac. You need to turn around and take a different direction. Right? And that's the importance of it, that there is always hope. There is always something else. You can see the light. Not everything is darkness. The thing about darkness, it gets a bad rap. You've got to be the light in your darkness. When you're in darkness where you only see the light, you're chasing it and you feel despair. When you become the light, you can go into darkness in peace. And it's a beautiful place to be.
And we all make mistakes.
Yes. Oh my God, stop beating yourself up.
Don't think that we are perfect.
Right.
We are not all perfect.
No, flawsome. We're flawsome. Right? We all have flaws. We all make mistakes. That's how we learn. Right? That's how we pivot and go, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't do that. Okay. And that is okay. I've learned from that. Forgive, move on, know better, apply better. That's all it is. How do people become a part of your foundation? If they want to kind of step up and help, or if they want to, call for help, what do they do?
Actually, they can go from paincomestrength.com. There is some information on there. They can call me. My cell number is actually on that website. And you can text me anytime, and I can reach out to you. I have several, actually, moms who has daughters or sons have passed away that has reached out to me and heard about the foundation. I mean, it's just all over the world. And I'm like, how did you hear? And it was just kind of a fluke with the name. And so you can reach out to me. That's the best way. We have a Facebook also, From Pain Comes Strength, or Laura Suria is my Facebook as well. You may reach out that way. And Willie J also. Willie J is a friend of mine. You can reach out to him as well. And he will get some information to me as well.
And as I said, we're going to close out with his song on Isabelle. It's also on the show page. And, folks, please do not turn your head the other way because it's a difficult conversation. We are very much a part of the solution, and it simply can be sometimes just giving somebody the time of day, of listening, of showing them that you care, that there is a way out. And that sometimes is all that somebody needs in order to change. And in other cases, and with teenagers, most certainly it can be more heightened because everything is heightened at that time. Everything is heightened. And, it might take a little more for them to redirect. And this is where I say, having your son come on and speak to that, because he's speaking to his generation. And, he's letting them know firsthand what it's like to lose someone, but what can come from it. And so his voice is very much needed. And I invite other youth, please do not hide. We need your voice. We need you to step and say, I felt suicidal and this person said this or this person did that. I need someone to say, youth to stand up and say, I will not accept this cyberbullying anymore. I'm empowering myself to say it has no effect on me. We need more of those stories to show people that there is a solution, there is a way out, that you don't have to end it all.
Yes, thank you so much for all your time and your effort that you've put in and giving this information out to all of our listeners and for the podcast. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you coming and sharing. So it is from pain comes strength.com. From pain comes strength. Yep, folks, when we're in labor, we're in excruciating amount of pain. And then we realize how strong we are when we have this beautiful child in our arms, right? There is always something beautiful to come out of pain, always. But you have got to go through the pain. And you can't avoid it, I'm sorry. And taking any form of drugs or addiction of any kind is not going to have you avoid it. You're just putting yourself in more pain. So know that you're not alone. We have Isabelle in the spirit world working alongside, and believe me, she has got a team there, a big team, and you're doing this wonderful work. And I really do hope that you manage to get this duplicated around the world. It needs to very much have a presence in the schools. This should be not just, a counselor. There's something about a counselor, a little bit of a stigma there. I went to the counselor, somebody saw me going to the counselor. Well, what's wrong with you? We don't want any of that. Yeah. We want to give them a safe place where they feel they could go. So your presence should be in all of the schools where they feel there is no shame for me asking for help. That goes for the bullier as well. Bullier, you are in pain. You're in excruciating pain. And the reason why you pass that pain on to others is because you don't know how to cope with it yourself. There's help for you too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And I look forward to having Logan on and sharing his story as well. And we're going to close out with your wonderful song of Isabelle. And thank you for opening your heart and the spirit with us today. And thank you, Isabelle, as well. Keep up the great work because you're making a huge difference. So until next time, folks, remember, kindness, caring, listening, being present, opening up your heart and eyes to what other people are struggling, and just simply being there. Till next time, bye for now.
Sorrow, yes,
We hope that you enjoyed the show. You will hear many shows here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. We have new shows for you out every week. Just find them on our podcast or What's New. If you feel that you have something to share that makes a difference in the lives of others, or you too feel that you could be a host, please contact me at info@selfdiscoverymedia.com and we will be glad to speak with you. Have a wonderful day.